Hey, what's up you guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I have my February 2024 wrap-up. February was a lot smaller than it was in January. As you guys know, if you watched my January wrap-up, I read 30 books basically in the month of January. I read 4, or I at least completed 4 in the month of February, which I am considering a win because I did still manage to start and complete my Wheel of D20 goal for the month, which was great, but I did have some setbacks this past month. My mental health was not really great for a lot of the month, and so it made it really hard for me to get through reading a lot, but by the end of the month I started picking it back up again, and so I'm hoping that March I can kind of like pick up a second wind and get back to it. But let's go over the stats and everything for this month. So in terms of pages, I read a total of 2,080 pages and 0 minutes worth of audiobooks. All of the books I read this month were physical reads, so no ebooks and no audiobooks, and 3 of them were from my personal library and 1 was borrowed. Out of the books I read, I had pretty much one of almost everything. I had a 5-star, a 4-star, a 3-star, and a 2-star. That is not too bad. I think that that's pretty awesome to see. So the first one I ended up actually completing was a carryover from January, but it was actually for a video that I was doing that you guys should be able to see now. It was part of my Will versus Jada Pinkett Smith video, the memoirs that they did. So I ended up finishing up Worthy by Jada Pinkett Smith in the month of February, and I ended up rating it a 5 out of 5 star. I think that this is one of my favorite memoirs in terms of the construction of the entire thing. And if you want more of my thoughts on this though, and especially what it was like for me to read this compared to Will's memoir, you'll have to go check out the video where I discuss the two of them, because I think that that video really encapsulates a lot more easily my thoughts on it, especially now since it's been a couple of weeks since I've read it, and so that video has more like immediate thoughts from finishing the books and the discussion of the difference between the two in terms of which one seemed to work better for me and what I thought of each of their stories based on what they told of their relationship, of the things that they went through, things like that. Next, unfortunately, this one was a bit of a disappointment for me. I ended up reading the Jasad Heir by Sara Hashem. This was Brandy's book club pick for the month of February, and I ended up rating this a 3-star. It wasn't bad, and I loved some of the atmosphere that was dubbed in this with the ancient Egyptian inspiration. I just feel like I really didn't connect with the characters at all. I really felt like I just was, I don't know, blindly walking through something that, like, I just had no clue what I was getting into, and I just was lost a lot of the way through this. I get the gist of what happened, and I would be interested to see what else Sara ends up writing. Whether I will continue this series or not, I'm not sure. I think it's going to depend on if the synopsis of the next book ends up piquing my fancy, and if I then decide to reread this in preparation for that. And I think especially a reread would be needed regardless, because I think that I just missed a lot going on in this one that I didn't feel like I maybe gave it a good enough chance, and I think I just need to like sit down and reread this again, because it felt like I was missing something, and I may just need to delve back into it to figure out what I missed the first time. Then I read a book that was one of my very few 2-stars I've had so far this year, and that was A Crown of Swords by Robert Jordan. This is book 7 in the Wheel of Time series, and y'all know, if you've been with me for long enough as I've been reading this series, that it's really been a roller coaster in terms of my thoughts of this series from the very first book. And I found that with this one, I just was bored beyond belief. I really didn't like a lot of what was going on. I felt like I couldn't understand a lot what was going on. This is one of those series where I have to look up the Spark Notes or the Wiki Notes of this series, because I don't understand a lick of what is happening in most of the chapters, with the exception of like the more romantic ones, which of course that's the ones that I paid the most attention to, because those are the most interesting parts. But I have decided that if I don't finish the series by the end of the year, I'm going to give up on the series entirely, because I would like to still try to get through as much of the series as I can, but whether or not the books are like the most important on my TBR, that's not necessarily the case. I will say I will be picking up book 8 in March because it was able to fit some things that I needed to for readathons and stuff like that I wanted to do. But if it doesn't fit anything that I'm looking for specifically, whether it's Wheel of D20 or a prompt for a readathon or something like that, then they're not going to necessarily be my high priority. Ending the month on a much better note, I did find a book that I really enjoyed. I was a little bit disappointed with how I ended up rating it, but still really enjoyed it regardless, and that was Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I did give this a 4-star. I just think that, like, for me, I loved the coziness of this. I loved the sweetness that there was with the story. I just didn't necessarily feel that there needed to be a romantic thing between our main character and the main side character that comes in. I just felt like it wasn't necessary, and I feel like that there was too much of a push for there to be a romance between the two of them. It didn't fit. It didn't fit with the rest of the vibes that were going on with this for me personally, and so I couldn't give it a 5-star because I still was kind of like, I don't like that. I don't like this happening. But this was so much fun. I definitely recommend it if you're looking for a really cozy, you know, little fantasy that's not super crazy. It's not super high fantasy. It's got high fantasy elements with the different types of people and humanoids and things like that, but it's not so high fantasy that, like, you can't keep up with what's going on. It's literally about an orc that opens up a coffee shop. I mean, come on. It's about an orc that opens up a coffee shop and wants to live their best life as a barista and make some really cool, quirky friends along the way. And it's just amazing. And I cannot wait to read book 2, and I cannot wait to see what else Travis comes out with, because I think that he's got some immense talent, and he puts, I would say, a lot of love into these books, because the way that this story read, it felt like it was a product of pure love and adoration from a writer's perspective. Without further ado, those are all the books I ended up reading. Obviously, Worthy was my borrowed book for the month, so it is back at the library. But yeah, 4 books, not too bad. One of everything, basically, not really super crazy. I think that it was overall a successful month. I just definitely feel like these 2 here were like my biggest disappointments. The Jasad Heir, honestly, was probably my biggest disappointment so far this year. I thought I was going to love this, and I was very lukewarm about it. But again, it may just be that I have to reread it eventually and see what I missed. But otherwise, this is basically it for the month. Let me know what you guys ended up reading in the month of February, if you did complete anything. And if you guys did enjoy this video, please do give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't already and you'd like to be able to see more content like this, go ahead and hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.